professional property managers. So excited to share this recording with you from PMLX 2020, featuring Andy Propst, CEO of HomeRiver Group, Doug Brien, CEO of Mynd, MYND, and Jen Stoops, EVP of Park Avenue Properties. A fantastic panel talking about the future of property management. And while this was recorded in August of 2020, the things that were talked about are still relevant today, maybe even more relevant today. And you'll hear highlights from across the whole panel, whether it's resident benefits packages, whether it's talking about how somebody can become the Amazon of property management and the kind of convenient experience they can create, ideas like fully digital onboarding of clients, and a lot of practical leadership lessons about empathy and understanding what's going on and how to lead a company into the innovative cycle that we're going through in property management today. So lots of cool ideas, fantastically credible speakers. Really hope you enjoy this episode. Doug, Jen, Andy, please allow me to give you a brief, insufficient introduction, and then we'll get into it today. And fortunately, so many of the people here know and admire and have followed you for some time. But just for those who don't know, Jen Stoops is a senior vice president at Park Avenue Properties. She runs the show. They're a multi-market organization running 4 figures of doors all throughout the Carolinas and Georgia. And anyway, she can share more about her company. But one of the things I just love about Jen is she's just an amazing human being, and that she's here today with the giving spirit. It just matches the spirit of this whole event, being a fundraiser for NARPM and the Alexander Hamilton Scholars Charity. So Jen, welcome. It's great to see that smile, even if it's digitally and not in person. Doug Brien is the CEO of Mynd, and Doug can wave if you can't see his name on. There we go. And Doug has a cool office. It looks like that's the home office, not the Oakland office I've been to a couple times. But Mynd, and that's Mynd with a Y, is really an innovative company. But Doug's history even predates Mynd and was part of the founding executive team at Colony Starwood, and back when SFR was like maybe an idea, not a proven asset class, and all the money that's come into the asset class now of institutional funds, Doug was really helping pioneer the space for Colony Starwood, and Doug is the CEO at Mynd. So Doug, thanks for being with us. Super appreciate you being here, and excited to hear what you have to share today. And then Andy Propst coming over. Let's see, Boise, Idaho. If you don't know Andy, what you should know is normally he's got, at an in-person conference, you'll see an array of amazing 3-piece suits, which are usually of note. And we try to get him an elephant suit or a purple suit when we can, but he's the only one that gets a 3-piece suit because it's his signature outfit. Andy is the CEO at HomeRiver Group that manages, 15,000 homes across many, many markets. And many of the HomeRiver Group is actually here with us today, which is great. And Andy has been a past president of NARPM and a huge contributor to the community. So we're excited to have all 3 of these executives with us today to talk about the future of property management. And so we have a couple of questions I'm going to run through, and we'll let each of these folks answer and go through. And this will inspire a lot of conversation we're going to be having later as small groups. So I encourage you to take notes. We will have some people reflect their top ahas. And if on a sheet somewhere you wanted to write down, hey, here's my biggest lessons, and then another column, here's some of the action points that maybe I could be taking or things I want to reflect further on after this. We'll have time later today to pick this back up. So first question, I'm going to come to Andy first. We'll go Doug and then Jen. How do you see the landscape shifting for single family rentals? What big trends are you looking at as you think about the future and positioning your company where it wants to go? So Andy, we'll come to you first.
Good question. Can you hear me first of all?
You're good.
That's a good question, and it's hard. As you guys know, it's really hard to see the future right now. So nobody could have put us in this situation. Nobody could have thought forward and said, "Hey, we're going to be in a pandemic. We're going to be having all of our conferences via Zoom," right? So it's hard to predict what's going to happen tomorrow, much less what's going to happen 5 years from now in this industry. So I feel less like an expert today than I ever have, because we have no idea what the future looks like with this pandemic. But what I'm seeing, some of the trends, right, especially in the single family space and the multifamily space, as you guys know, our inventory is super compressed. Cap rates are compressed. Investors want more time and they want less worry. So I think something that's interesting that companies like Roofstock are doing, as they're doing these fractional ownership investments in single family homes. So maybe mom and pop don't get in, but you see a lot of younger generations coming in, and maybe they don't want the whole house. Maybe they just have, $10,000 they want to put in and have some fractional ownership. So there's some management opportunities there for us. We're doing a lot of build to rent property, some single family, some multifamily, and we're automatically starting to build in like office and den space into these buildings, where normally it'd just be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, because we think that the trend of working from home is going to stick around even after the pandemic. What are some value adds that we can put into the property, because people are staying home more, and how can we continue to empower the tenant? The tenant they're willing to do anything if you give them a digital option to do it, right? So they'll happily fill out an application online, they'll put their maintenance requests online, right? They'll pay their rent online. So what are the other kind of touch points that are out there that you can empower the tenant to do? Because they're willing to do it if you make it easy and anxiety-free. So those are some of the future things that I think are some opportunities for us as property managers to add value, to empower the tenant, give them a better space to live, and hopefully sometime soon, the inventory will loosen up, and we'll have, maybe some more properties to manage. That would be great.
And Jen.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy to be here with you this morning on a Monday morning, bright early here in California. So, lots of interesting things happening in our industry. I think I'll highlight two, along the lines of what Andy just talked about, build to rent. So back in the early days of SFR, when I was at Waypoint Homes, so even before Starwood Waypoint, and then I think it was like Colony Starwood, we played with our naming conventions quite a bit as we consolidated. But back in the very, very early days with Waypoint, it was all about buying foreclosed homes and renovating them and then leasing them. And we kind of went through all the REOs, and people started buying some new homes. And, it was probably 2011, 2012, and this concept of, B2R, build to rent, hey, we now know a lot about the characteristics, the attributes of a home and a piece of land and a location that works really well for SFR. Why don't we just be intentional about it and start using portions of communities for single family dedicated residences? And at first, they were scattered throughout communities. And I remember being invited on CNBC at one point with Diana Olick, and we actually went out to one of our communities, and it was very much a hot topic. The builders were afraid the renters were going to ruin the communities. And I pointed around the community and I said, you tell me which homes are the rentals. It's these are people's homes. Yeah, they're renting it instead of owning it, but that's just a financing decision. Their choice is really based on their stage of life, and they want to be on a home. They want to be in a home. And I was frankly surprised that it didn't take off faster. This is, 5, 6, 7 years ago, because I just thought it made a lot of sense to be intentional and to not just have single family rentals that were dedicated newly built properties, but actually have communities, because it's actually easier. There's efficiencies or economies of scales by having a portfolio of homes instead of a portfolio of apartment units. And so that's one of the things that I'm really pleased to see taking off. And if you look at the public REITs, like, they're very, very focused. It's like, one of the really growing channels. And so I think, as managers, it kind of trickles down from these large public REITs. And now you see other institutional players like focused on how do they buy these build to rent communities. And look, a lot of them, don't know how to manage, don't want to manage. And I think that there are some different dynamics, such as the concept of doing a lease up. Like, that's not something that, we as SFR managers have to think about a lot. Although in the apartment world, that's, very commonplace. So I think there's some different dynamics to it. And I think it's absolutely a trend that will continue. And the other one that I think is very appropriate today with COVID-19 is, having more of a virtual property management service. I think if you look at all the various stakeholders that we interact with and just society worldwide, like, we're all trying to avoid unnecessary contact, right? It's like we all have our own place of equilibrium on the risk and rewards scale, and we're all willing to have certain interactions based on our own lifestyle and preferences. But I think the reality is people are trying to have as little interaction as possible. And, with Mynd being a tech-enabled property management company, meaning that we're really trying to use tech and data to make property management better, we've always kind of leaned in on this. And it's been great because now all of a sudden, a lot of the stakeholders that we work with are a lot more open to it. So the idea of virtual repairs and maintenance, like actually getting a technician on a FaceTime or on the phone and having a resident be willing to do some of the work and fix whatever the issue is. And, we've set internal goals to do X% of our repairs and maintenance virtually. This is a win for everybody. It's getting the problem fixed faster for the resident, avoiding a potentially unnecessary interaction. And for the owners that we represent, we can typically do it for less. And of course, we don't have to send our teams out to people's homes. So that's just, one example. I think we'll probably cover others as this discussion goes along, but we're really looking at how can you make the experience actually better by doing something virtually in a way that actually works. And I think that's a trend for us all to think about. How can we put the puzzle together a little bit differently?
Mm-hmm. I see so many wheels turning, and it's not just the hamster wheels that are making all these Zoom meetings work together to get this everything stitched together the way we do. Things about build to rent and what opportunities there could be for managers, from what you've shared, contactless property management, and what that could mean, and really enabling these digital services, and how now is such a time of change that a lot of the trends we were seeing are being accelerated. And it's an opportunity to get residents who maybe it took more effort to get them to do something new. Maybe now they're in a position where they're a little more open to change, or they can see how the conditions and circumstances, you can help get adoption and things from property owners and residents to move to this digital space. Great shares, guys. And Jen, please bring us home on this question. Anything you have to share on trends that you're looking at, and as you're looking to the future, what's going to be important for management companies?
I think you're going to see potentially a shift, not only with technology. It's very, very clear that I agree with both what Doug and Andy have said. There's a shift in technology, and property management in general. I think many of us are slower to adopt that, but that's not going away once this is done. So between CE classes, conferences, your team, you're going to see a lot more of that. But I think there's also going to be different opportunities for us as property managers, and those things are also going to look a bit different. We've all had to shift how we're handling inspections right now, different technology that we've implemented or that we're using, a lot of different FaceTime type showings, if you will, unless you're already doing, self showings. But we've had several where we've done FaceTime type showings for folks that, either aren't in the area right now or didn't want to come out for a showing. And certainly in-person showings were not, as well received. But you're going to see potentially, I think you're going to see a hybrid model across some of what they're saying with the build-to-rent space, with some of the larger REITs. Small to mid-size investors may still opt to outsource much of their property management, but I think you're going to see opportunities for property managers to have more a la carte services. So you may have an organization that is going to manage rent collections, manage their lease renewal process, but they want a property manager to handle their lease ups or their maintenance issues. So I think you're going to see some kind of a hybrid there, where we may be able, as property managers, to have to look at things that are a little less traditional, where we kind of cover the full service gamut or just leasing, and you may be doing pieces of that for clients that you're doing business with.
Not fast enough on my mute button there. Jen, thanks. That's really great. Man, such a great start to this. I'm excited to get in these next questions. And actually,
Andrew,
yeah,
can we jump in? Like, Jen just inspired me. I was talking to somebody, I can't remember who I was talking to, but we were talking about how services changed, right, over the years. So one thing that I look forward to in property management is this concept that, hey, the baby boomers, right, on the weekends, they would wash their cars, right, and change their oil, right? And you have this younger generation that's coming in and taking over for these baby boomers. They're not washing their cars. They're going to the car wash and they're taking their car to Jiffy Lube. And so the hope is that they say, well, hey, time is my most precious commodity out there, and I don't want to deal with this property management stuff. So I'm going to call guys like Doug or Jen or Andy, and hopefully we're going to see a lot of these, because most of these houses are owned by 60, 70-year-old, folks, and they're going to be giving them to these younger generations. So hopefully we're going to see that shift soon. I think that's a big wave, and it's a big opportunity for us as property managers.
Yeah, the generational and demographic effects, and that kind of ties in actually this next question, which is not just, how do these trends translate into the property owners that we're working with and ultimately what they want from a management company, but also the rental experience and the residents, the demographics, and what you're noticing about what's shifting and what they want, and what they're ultimately demanding, from the kind of experience to earn their attention and earn their business. So let me come to Jen first on that. What future do you see, Jen, for what residents want from their rental experience?
Well, you're seeing a lot of products out there now that offer like no security deposit. So there's products that as property managers we can invest in that would cover a security deposit for a resident. So in order to be competitive, because I think we're going to see a lot more tenants coming. Inventory is kind of low right now, but you're going to see a lot more residents coming. And so what differentiates you or your firm that makes them want to rent from you? Resident benefit packages. And I know there's going to be a lot of conversation over the next couple of days about resident benefit packages. Happy tenant stays. Happy tenants make happy clients. And so it's a win all the way around. So the trends are shifting from, kind of being solely client focused and being very tenant focused, tenant retention focused. Anything that's easy, convenient, quick, and immediate is what tenants are looking for. And always, this never changes. It's all about communication. So making sure that they are always in the loop, always in the know, but you're seeing different products out there, different benefit packages that can be offered to them. Anything that enhances technology, that they can do things quicker, better, faster, immediately, that's what we're going to see moving forward.
Yeah, the importance of speed and on demand. Love that, Jen. Doug, any quick thoughts on just what you see as a future for what people want from their rental experience? A couple key things.
Yeah, it's funny because, I co-founded Waypoint Homes in 2009, and this is one of the most central questions I've really thought about now for almost, or a little bit more than 10 years. And that's, at Waypoint Homes, what we were originally doing is we were buying these foreclosed homes. Again, we were renovating them. And then we started out by hiring third-party property management companies that could never find a company to do it as well as we wanted to do it. So we decided to build our own property management company. And what it really came down to was this realization, that we were buying houses, but the onus of turning that house into a home, which is an entirely different thing than house, really is up to the property management company, right? It's like, what's the experience that you envelope that house in that truly makes it a home? And I think that's one of that's really the noble cause of the property manager in this ecosystem, is turning houses into homes. Well, how do you do that? It's about an experience. And where my head goes is really using as many modern tools as possible. And so I would say we got into this a little bit at Waypoint Homes, and now at Mynd we're going deep into it. And that's using modern systems and feedback loops and data to help our teams get better. So NPS, Net Promoter Score, that's like a customer service score that, is used across all industries. And I think, we all know, if we're intellectually honest, that property management has not been an industry that's had high NPS scores historically. The average for the industry is 7, where, you get it to the Apples and the Southwest Airlines, they're like, 70 plus. So aspirationally, like, that's where we'd like to be. So how do you become better? NPS is kind of like a broad question. Would you refer X company to a friend? But you can get more granular with CSAT score. So customer satisfaction scoring, and having and leveraging systems that measure or give your customers or stakeholders the ability to give you feedback on every single touch point. So we're measuring every touch point we have with our residents, with prospects around leasing, with owners. And what that allows is basically those stakeholders to measure us on a score of 1 to 5 and to give us a little bit of feedback. And so we compensate our team, we give feedback for our team, we work with our technology teams to develop better tools to make a process more efficient based on this data that we get. And so what we're trying to build at Mynd is a culture that's constantly trying to improve and get better, and to raise the bar on that experience that residents want. And I think what Andy said is exactly right. Like, we want them giving us more, but I think the reality is, like, we have to earn it as an industry. We have to earn it as individual companies by delivering that better service that, makes it a no-brainer to hire us instead of doing it themselves, which, if you look at the industry, it's still, I haven't seen perfect data, but roughly a third of owners hire a property management company and 2/3 do it themselves. That's with like small owners. So like, can we have the inverse of that at some point, where 2/3 are hiring us and 1/3 choose to do it themselves because we're delivering such a great service?
That's right. And not getting there just on the trend alone. How are we earning the opportunity, right, to attract and differentiate ourselves, show the value that professional management brings to more of those people? Thanks, Doug. Andy, you're welcome to follow up on this or get into some of the tactical stuff around, move in, move out, turn, inspection, evaluation, how you see that working. Honestly, I could just let you guys go and talk. You could talk to each other. I'd just get out of the way.
I'll touch on it real quick, but first, I didn't get a chance to say thank you to you, Second Nature, especially you, Andrew, for hosting this. I went right into answering the question because my ADD, I would have forgot the question by thanking you. This is an awesome thing you guys are putting together with NARPM. We appreciate all you do for the industry. It's amazing what you guys do. But going back to the question, which I think I remember, which is awesome, what is it going to look like for the residents going forward? So when I'm on the internet late at night and I'm searching for something I'm trying to buy, right, I might find it in a regular search, a Google search, and it might be at a random website. And what I do when I find out a random website, I go right to Amazon and then I buy it at Amazon, right? Because why do we do that? Because working with Amazon is really easy. So, we had a vision at our company as we want to be the Amazon property management. And we want people to be able to find whatever they need, but then come back to us because we're just easy to deal with. Amazon has the fewest anxiety touch points, right? So if you look at the buying and returning of a product that you buy at Amazon, right? Buying it is easier. It's easiest to buy. and it's the easiest to return. So how do we get our move in, right, which is the buy, and our move out, which is the return, perfect, anxiety free? I think whoever can do that can basically become the Amazon of property management, because there's so many touch points, which kind of leads into your next question, I think, Andrew. And how do you see those touch points, understand where the anxieties happen within those touch points, and I don't know how you get the resources that Amazon has, but alleviate those anxieties through the technology. So that's where I can see potentially property management going. But if you just look at our industry in general, and it's so fragmented from different state to different state, and how we do things so much differently, how can we simplify it, eliminate those anxiety touch points, and make it more like an Amazon experience? I think that's what our consumers are wanting, our renters are wanting. They don't want to deal with the hassle of picking up the phone, talking to somebody, having to call in 3 or 4 times asking where their application is, and then wondering what's going on with their move-out deposit, right? Amazon, every time something changes or there's any information, they just flood you with the communication that you need to know exactly where your package is, when it's going to arrive, and they take a picture of it or whatever. So, that Amazon experience in property management, I think it's out there, and I think we will get there. Just who's going to get there first is the big question.
Andrew, do you mind if I piggyback on Andy's comment?
Please.
I think it's a great one. And there's this quote I love, and ever since COVID, I've been using it, probably overusing it, if you ask people of mine. It's a Winston Churchill quote: never waste a good crisis. So, what we are in right now is a crisis. How are we all interacting in a very virtual way? And so I think what's super interesting about the Amazon analog is what Amazon has done better than anyone else is made self-serve not just good, but great. Like, try to call Amazon. Try. Like, it's really hard. Like, I know people who have done it, who've had the patience to navigate and find it. And the reason that they make it so hard is and why it's still okay and it's still that great resource that we all go to, is because it's so easy to self-serve. Now, if you look at property management, I could make the argument we've been virtually the complete antithesis. It's like opposite of self-serve. It's like, no, I want my property manager I want to see you at the property. I want, moving. I want you there holding my hand. I want someone on the phone. I want to talk to you. Right. And it's like the reality, we know as professionals, there are actually better ways to get the job done. And I think what we have here with COVID is it's an opportunity. Everybody now is has no choice but to be virtual. I just went through this experience moving my daughter into her new college apartment. The property manager was there. We were literally trying to minimize the time. He's like, "I'm going to walk you through all the move-in checklists." I'm like, you know what? We got the checklist. I have a phone. I'll send you an email. I'll take pictures. We just rather minimize our time with you. And I'm sure, I can tell with the mask you have around your face, you do as well. And so it's we had a perfectly great move-in experience on our own with a phone and a camera. So I think there's all kinds of opportunities for us to reimagine all these touch points and figure out how to make it self-serve. We are right now, we have this grand vision of having an owner onboarding that's self-serve. Imagine that. What would that take for someone who's late at night searching on Google, wherever it is, they find, XYZ property management company. They can learn enough, have enough of an experience with all different kinds of technology, testimonials, ratings, to be comfortable to start to go through a process of actually deciding to do business with you and onboard. Now, what percentage are going to choose to do that? Low percentage, but over time, could we as an industry make all these really hard, painful experiences more easy like Amazon does? I think, that's a real aspiration that we have. And I think Amazon is a great example of a company who's invested a ton and done a remarkable job of making it easy.
I'm sure when self-service gas pumps were, brand new, that a lot of people were saying, no, I want someone to come and pump this for me or do this for me. And then grocery stores were seeing more and more people migrate. And so, the picture of the future isn't how many people are doing it right now, but is that where the puck is going? And if that's where the puck is going, can we help lead that and offer that and nurture that and show people the way to get there and clear that path so it's as easy as possible to get there?
Yeah, and I think importantly, just to add in, it's not about doing it in the name of better gross margins for us. It's about studying the experience. What do people care about? What are the things that need to be done? How can you reorganize things and use technology to actually make it better? That's the art.
Awesome. Jen, I'd like to come to you just in case, because I know you've got things like welcome baskets and all kinds of creative stuff you guys have done. When you think about, what kind of practices around the key touch points of move in, move out, inspection, maintenance, how do you see those evolving over time and ultimately impacting the experience for residents, property owners, and the reputation of a property manager and ultimately what they're there to do?
It's interesting because these guys both touched on it already. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's how to shift quickly. And in property management, let's face it, that is not easy to do. Most property managers, property management firms are resistant to change. It's comfortable. The cardinal rule in our office is never say the phrase, "We've always done it that way." You can't keep that as your mindset. So there are a lot of things we actually were slowly starting to sort of migrate towards that the pandemic kind of pushed us into having to do. One, our field inspectors cannot stand it when a tenant is hovering over them at a move in or a move out. It drives them crazy. And so we were already starting to move to a shift of creating videos and inspections that our team does that are uploaded into the tenant's portal. And the tenant has a period of time where they've got a format as well that they can report things back to us if something shows up within their first 48 hours of getting there. And this way we can keep production going. You're not worrying about missed appointments. You don't have somebody hovering over you. That was prior to now us having to worry about contactless, move-ins, move-outs, and all of that. So we saw it with showings some years ago where more and more people were shifting towards. So it's kind of one step at a time. Our industry is starting to move towards the advances in technology and more automation of things. And the pandemic has forced us into that a bit more. I think you're going to see more and more and more of that going along. Both Andy and Doug, used Amazon as a great example. How can you create a process where a resident can log in and see where the status is of their application? Is it still in processing? What's the recommendation for it? What's the status of their maintenance request? And that actually for us has gotten a lot better with the use of technology, automation of scheduling. We've gone from probably 3 days of phone back and forth with tenants and vendors to probably less than 3 hours with the use of different technology that we've implemented for maintenance requests. Billing from the vendor is automated as well. I mean, as soon as they're done with the job, they can upload their photos, create their invoice, and you're done. We used to have to chase vendors down for their invoicing some time ago. And, you want to get that stuff billed within 30 days. Showings, with the use of various electronic boxes and different software programs that are out there, you can always see who's going in and out. You pre-qualify them before they even go. So there already are a lot of things that are moving in that direction, but I think our industry has been very slow to sort of begin to shift a little bit harder that way until now. I think you'll start to see those things rapidly changing in a fashion because you get a pandemic once, you never know when it's going to happen again. And to Doug's point, out of every difficult situation comes opportunity. So it's just a matter of how you go capture it, find it, and figure out how to utilize it in your business. But I'd love to see our industry shift a bit more into a customer service based, but user-friendly, automated, more efficiencies, where people can self-serve a little bit more. I think people worry that we'll eliminate us as property managers. Somebody still has to manage all of that stuff and make sure it works properly. You still have to have a level of customer service, but I do think we're going to see shifting in that direction.
Jen, thanks. And I'm actually going to stick with you, Jen, for this. I want to get this last question where we can get a couple minutes from each of you before I do one lightning round, quick question at the end here. And then we're going to get our whole audience into an active learning cycle is what we call it, where they're actually going to kind of debrief some of the top insights of what they learned from all of you and reflect back some of this to us. And we'll share it with you. If we can't get it here into the stage, we'll get it shared with you, what people are taking away from this. So, Jen, the last question I wanted to come with you with, and you alluded to some of this earlier of resident benefit package and no security deposit and things like that. What are some of the biggest opportunities you see for value creation in management that it doesn't exist or barely exists today? It's new business models potentially, or even ways of monetizing the business. We're looking for a couple of ideas here on, what property owners will want, which we've been talking about, residents will want, and are there new ways of actually organizing or creating value that are emerging or that you could see emerging over the years to come? And we won't hold you to it. So feel free to place a bet you're not 100% in. We want to hear a couple things.
From your client perspective, our industry historically has kind of one property manager managing a portfolio of properties, and so they're the main point of contact and so on. And I guarantee everybody that's done property management has gone through this at some point in time or multiple times before they kind of scratch their head and go, okay, we got to make a change here. What happens when that one property manager goes out on vacation or, God forbid, does not work at your organization anymore? And then you have everybody else trying to jump in and figure out how to basically put out the fires and handle emergency stuff while you go find somebody new to then drink out of a fire hose to take on that portfolio. So redundancy, cross-training, setting up your team. We sort of have a hybrid between portfolio and departmental in our organization. We have not gone fully departmental because we've all talked about it already. While we're not there yet, I think we are shifting in a direction where you won't have clients necessarily going, I have to speak to Jen, I have to speak to Andrew. They're willing to talk to whomever because they recognize the organization is such that there's multiple people within that group that can help them. It's not just one person anymore. That shift is changing, but we have sort of a hybrid model. So we've got redundancy amongst our teams. You've got to have that redundancy in order to protect yourself. So if person A isn't there, person B can help pick that up. That's huge. That was a game changer for us when we decided to shift that model from just a single property manager managing one portfolio of properties. That one was one of our biggest changes, and we did that a few years ago. Resident benefit packages, we're talking about it more and more and more. You're going to see a trend of a lot more. I think the pandemic has also, you're going to see a lot of investors coming out. I don't know where we're going to find the inventory, but rent to build is certainly one of them, but you're going to see a lot more investors. The market's going to change a bit. But you're also going to see a lot more folks continuing to want to rent for the same reasons. You're going to have those that are going to be risk takers that are going to want to go invest in real estate. You're going to have others that are like, I don't know what's going to happen and when the shoe's going to fall again, so I want to rent for a while. And they have the ability to shift quicker. It's never, easy to get out of your lease, but in the mindset, it's a lot easier if you have to take a job across the country to shift out of a lease than a home that you might own right now. So I think you're going to see a trend there. So that's going to mean opportunities for us. And how do we keep tenants happy? Happy tenants stay longer, and unless they have to relocate. Maintenance, we all know maintenance is the number one reason tenants don't stay. If they're dissatisfied with how maintenance went throughout their term, it's a customer service issue. If they move in at the beginning and things don't go well, you already probably eliminated 50% of the people that will renew with you. So things like resident benefit packages, things that we can do to keep the tenant experience at the highest level. We do the same as Doug was speaking of. There's very little that does not get tracked from a survey perspective with our residents. From the moment they move in, within a week, they're getting called. Actually, they get called prior to moving in to see if they have everything they need to move in. Then they get called after they move in. They probably get sick of hearing us. And some of this is automated as well. Some are touch points in person. Some are touch points via automation. Every maintenance request, there's a survey afterwards. So that not only helps us make sure that the resident is happy, one, we know the job got done well, and it keeps us tracking our vendors also. So all of that ties together. Everything that we can do to continue to make the resident experience better, then it keeps your owners happy. So you're retaining your clients as well. So it comes full circle.
Awesome. I'm going to come to Andy and then Doug. We'll give you guys a couple minutes each on this question. Then I've got a lightning round question.
Sure, I'll be quick. I think it's crazy, right? So if somebody wants to log into their portfolio of investments, then go to TD Ameritrade and type in their password and get on and see what their value of their investment is. Right now, every second it's updated. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. I think it's crazy that we don't have something like that for our investors, right? So we know what the cap rates are in the markets. We know what their NOI is, right? So we have everything we need to know for them to log on and see, hey, this is my property. Here's my income and expense analysis based on that number that changes on a monthly basis, or as we update it, daily in their portal, that they can see, hey, this property's worth this much today. It was worth this much last month. We project it to be this much next month. And by the way, you can click this button to sell it, or you can click this button to buy more, just like you would when you're logging on your TD Ameritrade account, right? I think we need to make buying and selling real estate assets, either fractionally or full assets, just as easy as going in and buying and selling stocks. And if we can do that, I think more people would happily get into doing this and make real estate more an investment in their portfolio.
Attainable.
Yeah. It's just too much work. Buying and selling stocks, it's pretty easy to do. Owning property, it's hard sometimes. It's really freaking hard sometimes. So how can we make it just as simple as buying and selling stocks? If I actually talked to our software company about this a couple of years ago, why can't we have some type of a line graph or bar graph of the value of the property over time, and when is the best time to sell it? We have all that information to make those type of analysis and recommendations, but we just don't have the technology to do it. So I think that's going to happen. I'd love to be able to do that, but I just don't have the tech skills to do it.
Andy, it's funny that you say that. One of the things that we do, all of us probably would agree, you have one client has a major maintenance issue, and all of a sudden 7 years worth of owning that property doesn't exist anymore, and they're like, oh my gosh, this property has never made me any money. And so one of the things we started doing about a year ago is when we have a situation where somebody's thinking of selling their property, or they feel like, you kind of have those red flag warnings, there may be a potential termination coming, we go ahead and do an analysis of their time with us and show them because they don't often see that. And this is, you're talking the individual homeowners, not obviously, institutional has their own set. They're watching that like hawks. We all need to be more like institutional, watching that like hawks for our clients. I've learned so much managing for institutional investors that we have then implemented to our private retail clients. And it's been amazing to just be able to give them the data. They don't know what they don't know. And if we have somebody that's selling, we market it out throughout our own investors first. We have thousands of investors that we're already managing for. And that has been amazing. Something so simple, such low-hanging fruit, when you hear, because there's various reasons, especially with the pandemic, that people need to sell right now. They may need to liquidate. So why not be able to retain that property and sell it to another one of your investors who's potentially looking to buy more? And you'd be amazed how many of them come out of the woodwork. It's been awesome.
Yeah, asset management approach versus property management, that you're not just managing the toilets, the tenants, and the trouble, right? You're managing their financial future, and you're taking it on personally. Hey, I want to make sure this is good for you now. And by the way, you can go in and see what's going on, right? Because we do that same analysis, but it takes a lot of time. You got to pull down their statements, go back. But the technology is there. We can click one button and say, here's what's going on with your property.
That's
we just
right.
the technology today. It should be simple, but it's not.
Nope.
Awesome. Tenants, toilets, and troubles. I know somebody wrote down those 3 T's. That's great. Doug, I'd love to come to you and get your perspective on this before we wrap it up and get everyone into an activity.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think what I'm going to say really piggybacks on what Jen and Andy just talked about. And the way I think about it is it's the advent of the real estate platform. I think as property managers, we need to, and we all probably want to change the conversation. The way I think about it is, look, I don't want to be your property manager. I think there's a certain way of thinking that goes along with that. What I want to be is your investment partner. I think if you're talking to someone as an investment partner, it's a very different conversation. And I go back to my days at Waypoint where, for 7.5 years, we had this real estate platform. We were, first it was high net worth individuals, institutional capital. Ultimately, we ran a public REIT for 2 years, and we made a lot of money for, large institutional investors. Our vision with Mynd is to bring those same capabilities to individual retail investors and to have one connected platform that does the property management. We started with property management because in the entire real estate ecosystem, that's the most enduring relationship, and it's where all the activity happens. It's where the data resides. Once you have that trust from that relationship that you have as a property manager, and you have all this powerful data, you're in a very interesting position to stand back and have a very different conversation around, to Andy's point, what are your investment goals? What are you looking for? Appreciation? Are you looking for current returns? Like, we're in 21 different markets right now. I get Andy's emails once a week, and I bring my little 11-year-old son who I'm teaching to invest, and I'll hey, let's underwrite this one in Idaho. I love Idaho and the Boise area. So we underwrite his deals, but I love it. It's like, as property managers, we're changing the conversation. Yes, we manage the 3 T's. That's the execution. Somebody's got to do it. We're all in on going deep, on building tools, getting better and better at that. But what we also want to do is understand what your investment goals are, be able to help you buy, insure, finance, everything that you need to execute a successful investment strategy that makes sense for you. And I'm seeing more and more property management companies expand their offering. I think technology is a huge piece of it. How do you have all the data in one system so you can, what someone needs in terms of insurance, the financing that makes sense. We've had this unbelievable campaign in the last couple of weeks where we asked people if they wanted us to look at their insurance policy and see if we can do better. We have this blanket policy. We know on average we can get them more insurance for 25% less than they're paying today because of scale. And so we're having those conversations, and we had over a month waiting list, to have those meetings. So I really think, to both what Jen and Andy are saying, and it's great and refreshing to be on a panel with 2 such progressive property management companies. This is what people want. It's not about improving our economics, although it does and it will. It's about, what do investors really want? And what I think is, a property manager is like a necessary evil. An investment partner is indispensable. So how can we make ourselves investment partners and bring modern tools to bear to make it as easy and simple, to make it as easy as trading a stock? Because we could talk for another hour about why real estate. To me, the risk reward after tax returns of real estate are way, way more compelling than investing in the stock market. How do we help average Americans build their wealth at a faster pace with less risk through real estate by making it a lot less difficult? To me, that's the exciting opportunity. That's what gets me out of bed every morning, excited to continue to do what we're doing with Mynd.
Wow. Awesome. So cool. I almost don't want to ask the lightning round question because these are such good perspectives, to end on. But I'm going to risk it and take a chance anyway. So I'm just going to ask you guys in a sentence or two, either A, something that you're just burning about, like, oh my gosh, if we could have taken 4 hours, we could have kept this panel going. I'm sure any one of you talking about the future of property management, where you see things going, we could have had a longer conversation. But it was great to get all of your perspectives and see where they differed and were often shared and validated, corroborated. But here's what I'd like to ask. If there's anything in a sentence or two that you'd like to offer to people as, hey, something I was burning to share but didn't get it to share, or B, giving you an option, just how you're feeling about the future and why in a couple of sentences, what you think about when you look to the future, how do you feel about it for the industry of property management? And then I'll have one final thought and hand it over to Adair. So Jen, let me come to you first. Sentence or two. Andy?
I'm excited actually about the future of property management. And Andy and I have been in this industry in the single family space, much smaller than initially, Andy was kind of like how we were, much smaller firm at the time, now more in the realm of where Doug is at. But property management is very slow to shift gears. And so I'm excited to see that this has kind of forced our hand to move in that direction. You kind of have folks that are either they're outside of the box thinkers, or you have folks that are, this is the way we've always done it thinkers. And so I think you're seeing more people shift towards this is how we've always done it. But I also agree with Doug. The other part that gets me excited is, and we do this in our firm, we focus on the asset management. We don't talk about property management itself a whole lot, because property management to me, to Doug's point, is it does come across as a necessary evil. It's almost like a cuss word. People don't want to say it. It's like, oh God, I got to call my property manager. So we're trying to change that. We're like, the communication from our organization to our clients is not, oh God, I got to hear from my property manager. We're having good communication. So I'm excited about the shift and where it's trending in the future of where property management is going. And I do think a huge trend of that, where you're going to see more and more people investing in real estate, is the fractional ownership. I think that's going to be on the rise, and I think it's going to be huge.
Awesome. Andy, a couple sentences about how you're feeling about the future of property management. Then Doug.
I'm optimistic guy just in general, but just on the concern side, I worry about the culture, right, of having us potentially have a lot of more of our folks working from home. And it's hard to get a culture together when you're in multiple markets, but it even makes it more difficult. And you guys at Second Nature, Filter Easy, that's your brand, right? Your culture, what you guys do. And so I probably put the question back on you guys. What are you doing to keep that dynamic culture going from home and keeping everybody excited and accountable? So the two things I'd leave as far as concern about property management going forward is culture and accountability. Those things are hard to keep going when everybody's working from home. So that's a thing that keeps me up at night.
Everyone here who leads a team, I'm sure they can relate to what you're expressing there, Andy. So thanks for that. And I know they can't wait for Susan Scott. Rather, they don't want to hear from the Filter people, although we're proud of the culture we have and we've built. They probably want to hear from best-selling author Susan Scott, who will have teeing things up tomorrow morning. So that's great, and that'll be addressed in the event. So thanks, Andy. Doug, look into the future. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm like these two. I'm just inherently optimistic, and what always gets me exciting is learning and growing. And there's really two things that I think about every day, and these are very hard, but I think it's a real opportunity for growth. I think it's really, really needed. And all of us run companies, which means we're responsible for other people's lives and their portfolios, their life savings. And to me, it's empathy and transparency. Like these are unprecedented hard times. Like I'm here in the Bay Area, and it's like, there's COVID-19, there's social unrest, there's economic upheaval. Now we have smoke. Like we can't even go, like our salvation used to be able to go outside. Like I can barely go outside. It's so smoky here. It's like insane. This is like emotionally taxing on people and everybody in their different ways. So I think learning to have empathy for others and their situation, like that's something that, like, I'm excited about growing in that way. And then transparency, like this relates to technology and kind of what we're doing, but I think along with empathy, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like the more you can just be transparent with your people, with your team, like we now do, we call it top of mind. Every single week, well, actually it was every week, we've moved to every other week. It's like open mic questions. I tell them 100% the truth. Like we laid off 50 people at one point, like the hard truth about what I'm thinking, what we're doing, what's happening with the company, with the industry, to the best of my ability. And we also really try to do that with our owners. Like, look, rents in San Francisco, they're down 10% and they're falling more. Like you can hold out for that higher rent, but like if I were you, I would get in front of the curve and, knock $300 off your rent and get this thing full now, because people, it's a mass exodus from San Francisco. So lots of different examples of how this is relevant in different people's life. But like, I'm excited about learning these two skills, really, I think, of empathy and just being more transparent. And it's been helpful in terms of, getting us and me through this crisis.
Awesome. Well, I know people can't wait to hear the radical transparency that is Chris Lockhead, who is our keynote coming up shortly. And to keep us on time, I'm going to hand it over to Adair, who's going to share with our audience what we're going to do next. But I just want to personally reflect back to all of you that this was amazing. I've got a million notes over here on all kinds of like construction paper and stuff like this, but I'm sure people at home have a ton of notes. And I just think about that journey of the peaks and the valleys for a property owner and a resident that you guys were talking about. And how do we eliminate these valleys? And how do we create more of these peaks? And how do we make it easy like Amazon? And how do we do that with transparency? And how do we do that with empathy? And how do we do this in a way that allows us to differentiate and flip the curve from 1/3 managed to 2/3 professional managed in the United States? And we know that you guys are a huge part of that leadership effort, and that ultimately all of the people on this group are going to be a huge part of that leadership effort over the years and decade to come. So that's all for today's episode of The Triple Win. Hope you enjoyed this recording that we released from PMLX 2020. And if you like what you heard here, then we fully expect you can be confident you're really going to enjoy what we've got lined up for PMLX 2021. We've got Chris Voss, FBI hostage negotiator, best-selling author, sold millions of copies of his book, Never Split the Difference. We're going to be featuring him, and we think you will really like what he has to say and share. We know many of you are fans of him and his work already. We're totally excited about that. And in addition, we're going to have another Future of Property Management panel featuring industry experts, executives from the industry on what they see for the future of the industry we all share and are collaborating on together as a professional property management industry. You're going to hear from specific industry experts on specific topics like running high impact Zoom calls, leadership best practices within your team to influence change and manage your team, and what that's like in 2021. It's changed a lot since even just 2011. So you're going to hear that and much, much more. You can go to pm-exchange.com to find out more information about the event, August 24th, 2021. Be sure to sign up, and 100% of the proceeds of this event go to charity. So we hope to see you there. We're looking forward to supporting a great cause. Over 300 of your peers have already registered. We're already past last year's number by the time you're listening to this. And very stoked to have another fantastic event. This was rated a 9.9 out of 10 by the attendees last year. We're seeking to do that or better, shooting for a 10 out of 10 this year. Hope to see you there. pm-exchange.com. Take care.